transition into speaking about the DreamHack Valencia and the results there. Then we'll go through our little internal fantasy draft and contest that we have. And then, as you can see, we have spicy chicken wings up here. Or I guess you could say chicken nuggets or whatever you want to call them. Chicken tenders. And the losers are going to have to both eat one of those. And we're going to do that at the very end, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But without further ado, we'll get on with today's show. And Liquid beating Vitality 3-1 in the finals of ESL One Cologne. I guess we could start off right away with, were there any surprises in the playoffs at all? Not just talking about Liquid and Vitality, but going back to the quarterfinals. Did you guys see anything or want to talk anything about what happened in the finals?
Feels like right after we talked about how good Plopsky is, you kind of like fell off the boat, like especially on Mirage. I think he had like 8 kills or something against Astralis. So I guess that, we're kind of overhyping these young guys a little bit, and you're going to see these kind of inconsistencies, I guess. And I guess that's what really makes a difference between a team like even like Liquid and Astralis, with like these guys who are maybe 20, 21, even mid to late 20s, who might not have the same amount of skill that like Plopsky has, but I mean, they have the knowledge and the composure as like a guy like Plopsky, I guess, that we're kind of hyping up already.
Well, when you talk about Plopsky, I mean, you look at, it's one thing going through the round robin and playing some of the lower end teams, but then he's a young player. He gets on stage in front of 16,000 people, and he's going up against Navi, right? And you look across the stage, and I know these guys are still young, but you're going to see literally legends right now in Simple, Flamey, Electronic, and you're going, oh man, what did I get myself into? And you got, again, 15,000 people watching you live, and then you have another, 300 to 350,000 people watching online. Stream, yeah. And I'm sure at that point, I mean, it's easy for us to say because we're just watching, but at that point, you have to be thinking that the nerves kick in, and you're going to be thinking, oh, I better not make any big mistakes here because that's going to be roasted forever. Yeah. Right? I mean, look at the Simple Knife. The next, within an hour, probably less than that, that's all people were talking about was that whiff.
I guess, I kind of feel like when we're playing together, there's no one even watching, and you got like a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1, you got to try and clutch it. You feel all the pressure collapse onto your chest. Imagine having, like you said, 300, 400,000 people watching you. Especially as a 17-year-old, that's tough.
Yeah, just think about when we're playing Counter-Strike for fun, and you have a 2v1 clutch situation. Like, you planted the bomb, and then you have just your teammates, and it's quiet. No one's talking to you. You're probably feeling some nerves. Okay, imagine that now, but 15,000 plus whatever, money 400,000 money on the line, right?
Different setup. I think that always has a big thing to do with it.
Yeah, right? That's true.
You get so used to a certain environment, and you suddenly placed in a new one, and you got to clutch up like that. It's difficult. A lot of factors.
And one thing, too, we got to talk about is the emotion on the NIP bench, especially with Get Right announcing he's not going to be retiring. And just the sheer, kind of emotion on that bench is going to be insane. So, of course, Plopsky wants to perform well and try to do well, especially, with Get Right retiring and possibly some roster changes going on. So, obviously, he wants to perform. So, hopefully, we'll see that come up in the next tournament.
That Get Right moment was a tearjerker when I was watching it live. It was a tearjerker when the whole crowd started going nuts for him. He started tearing up because I feel like he's not going to retire, but I think his stint at NIP is coming to an end soon. Feels like
maybe, but it was weird because I didn't understand why it was so emotional. Because it's one thing if he had announced before the tournament that he was retiring or he's being kicked off NIP, but there has been those rumors. He just he said that those were in the play possibly, but there was no confirmation that was happening. So why are you being so emotional?
I think too, just because they lost that game right then and there. And they were so close. They were all on the Get Right hype train. So I mean, I was there. I felt the emotions there.
I get it. I get it, but I didn't understand why he didn't retire. He's not kicked off the team. What are you crying for? Why?
I mean, I feel like it's tough for a guy. He came into it and he was ranked number 1 in 2013 and 14. You're like the superstar, and you're kind of falling. Like you're kind of seeing your career slowly start to diminish, and I guess it's kind of emotional. You've been playing for this long, and you see these people still supporting you, right? Even after your down times, and you see the rumors coming, and you go from, wow, I was I was as good as Simple was and stuff at that time, I was the superstar in the world, and now I'm probably the 4th or 5th best player on my own roster, and to still see people support you, it's probably emotional for him,
And it was a little bit of hot water going into because we never, Get Right never said if he was going to retire, if he wasn't, we never got a clearer statement. And people were even asking after he did the interview, and obviously from what I retained from the interview was that he is not retiring. So I don't know. We'll just have to see how it plays out in the future.
Okay, so if you, based off of his performance this weekend, or I could say last weekend. I mean, NIP, I think...
got to go right to the numbers.
Well, of course. But I think we can all agree that NIP is trending upwards. Like, they're definitely... They're consistently getting to the playoffs. At least you can say that. They're not the teams that are going out early. They are making to the playoffs. Now, do you look at them, if you're in management position on for Ninjas in Pajamas, do you go, is Get Right the problem? Or is it somebody else? Or do we let it ride it out? Or are they doing the right thing and saying, okay, you know what, we'll give you till after the major. So you have up until the major, including the major, to prove yourself that you're still good to be on the team. And it's not just him, probably going to evaluate the entire team. Is that the right move that they're making?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, you know what, give them some time. Get Right literally just announced that he's not going to be retiring, so I think that'll kind of calm some nerves on the team, and they can move forward as a team, practice together, work well together, and try to perform at these next stages coming up to hopefully try to get to the semifinal stage or even a grand final. But, you know, before 3 or 4 months ago, if we were talking about NIP, they wouldn't even be on my radar for quarterfinals. So, yes, I completely agree that they're on the kind of upward spiral right now, but how long is this going to last? I wouldn't say too long.
I definitely think that out of the two, out of like everyone that you can rotate in and out of the roster, it's definitely between Get Right and Lekro, because Rez and Plopsky are so young and have so much, you know, potential to be superstars. You can't move them. And then Forrest is your superstar. Like, he's good enough. Like, you saw that one-on-one op battle on Mirage against, was it Simple? That was crazy, right? Like, and he beat him. So I think that's between definitely Lekro and Get Right of who you would rotate in and out.
Forrest has to be one of my favorite players.
He's really good.
Like, still to this day, like, he's so good.
It's odd to see a guy at his age like hit what looks like prime right now.
It's weird. Like, I know biologically when you're like, there's a reason why younger players are better at games is because their reaction time is better. Like, with regards to video games, but it's still like you're talking like micro fractions of seconds and milliseconds. Like, so Forrest is what, 31, 32? It's not like he's playing, how old is he?
32, I think.
He's 32?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we're talking like he's got to go sprint or run a marathon here. He's playing football. He's playing a video game. So like, in your opinion, why is it that when you get older, you start to decrease in skill for video games?
Well, I'd say, you know, it's a kind of like a double-edged sword, and like, because Forrest I kind of relate to like a glaive kind of thing, where, you know, the reaction time isn't there, but the game sense is there, and it's, you know, kind of 10 times the fold what the other competitors are playing with, as apart from like Forrest and Glaive, you know, kind of like those IGL leaders who are going to be making those 2,000 IQ plays to say like, okay, I know that this guy's here, I can make a play now. So, I mean, it's also like, I want to say Glaive again too, because he has very similar kind of, I would say, Counter-Strike play when I watch them play, because, you know, when you need one of them to step up, they step up, and those are kind of the guys that we expect that of them. So, I don't know, I would say Forrest, Glaive, and pretty much anyone in an IGL position, you'd expect that. Obviously, the kind of the dexterity falling off, but the kind of knowledge you would hope would be continually going up.
So I'll go through the entire NIP team here, their stats for the week, or for the entire tournament. So Forrest finished with 133 kills and 111 deaths. So he was the only player on NIP to finish with a plus KD, or a positive KD. And he finished with 92 fantasy points, and he averaged 13.14 fantasy points per map, which is really good. I'd say the average for fantasy points per map is roughly between 8 and 10. Yeah. So anything above 10 is really good. And Forrest finished with 13. In general, the entire NIP team wasn't that bad of a performance overall.
I would still say Plopsky, he only had 55 fantasy points. Like,
yeah.
But it was one of his first tournaments, right?
It was one of his first tournaments, but maybe you'll give him that. But by far, he was their biggest weak point at 55.5 fantasy points and 7.92 fantasy points per map, which is extremely low.
It was scary to watch, just to see that Plopsky was...
Yeah.
He couldn't fit. You know, there were like pros, and then there was Plopsky.
But you definitely have to look game to game, because in the beginning of the tournament, he was lighting it up. you know. And then once you got to the playoffs, that was when against Astralis when you really saw him fall apart, and that's where it really affected his fantasy points per map. So I guess he had skill, but you know, once you get into like the playoffs and you're playing against Astralis, like the Giants, you know, I feel like the pressure really gets
against Navi. His rating was 0.76. He finished with 28 kills, 43 deaths.
Yeah.
So he had a minus 15 KD. Against that.
And
against
those
Navi.
like Forrest and like Glaive, those guys, you know, playing like Navi, you expect them to have at least, you know, a positive KD, let alone not even. So.
Yeah, but I guess that's where age comes into a positive effect because you kind of the nerves are gone, right? Like you're used to this, you've been there, you've done that. It's just another game for you, right?
Yeah. And Forrest knows he can adjust his playstyle to play with these greats, unlike Plopsky, you just couldn't keep up.
So you end up with Navi beating NIP. I think we probably all would have guessed that.
Expected that.
Okay, Vitality beating NRG 2-0 in the quarterfinals. That's not a really surprise to me. Maybe it could have been a little bit closer, but I still would have picked Vitality to win that game.
To be honest, I expected that to be close, like you said, but with the way Zaiwu was playing even in the group stages, it's not going to be close as soon as the playoffs came.
We knew Zaiwu was a really good player, but I think for some reason this was like the stage for him. Like his coming out party almost for the world.
Prove, on this one.
Yeah, I think it's because of Simple's comments that Zaiwu is the only other player in the world right now that could beat him in a 1v1, or he's close to his skill level.
Yeah, that would be a confident booster for sure.
And I think it's because even though Cologne isn't a major, you know, a lot of people consider it almost major-esque, right? Like people are saying it should become a major. So I guess this is really, you know, that was his big stage to show everyone the skill he's got.
It was a great event.
Yeah,
like it was fantastic. The amount of people that go and they sold out the arena was awesome. Like every single day was amazing. The crowd was awesome. Okay, so we'll go to the quarterfinals. Now we move on to the semifinals. We have Vitality defeating Astralis 2-1, and we can probably talk on this one for a good portion of our time today. Clearly, it was a surprise to probably everyone on this panel, maybe except for Aaron, because Aaron drafted 2 Vitality players. My picks were Astralis and Liquid for the finals. However, if you do remember, when we did our draft, Vitality was in the middle of playing Heroic, so we didn't know if they were going to win or not in advance. And I really wanted to take Zaiwu. It didn't end up matter because I'm not one of the losers today, but still having Zaiwu with on my fantasy team would have been a lot better than Device. Any storylines that you want to touch base with Vitality versus Astralis?
I just wanted to say that I'm upset. I mean, it was great. There was a couple great highlight clips too of Glaive with the op there. Insane individual skill from them, but yeah, they just got completely run over from Team Vitality, and it wasn't in terms of like, you know, knowledge or anything. It was just pure skill and aiming in the headshots. You know, they couldn't keep up. And it was kind of sad to see that the Danes need to go back to kind of the basics and get back to CS.
Yeah, here's the run through or the rundown on the maps here. So they lost 2-1. Dust 2, Vitality won 16-8. Inferno, Astralis won in overtime 22-19, and then map 3 was Overpass 16-9 in favor of Vitality. So the maps that Vitality won, they were pretty much by a landslide and easily won.
Dominant.
Yeah. And on Inferno, Astralis had the opportunity to close out against Vitality, and Vitality came back and pushed OT on them. And one thing I want to say with Vitality in particular, not against Liquid so much, but against Astralis, they definitely, in my opinion, was their best overall team performance that I've ever seen them do. They never, ever allowed Astralis to get too far ahead. And I thought as an overall team, they played extremely well. There wasn't one weak point. Their rotations were really good when somebody called something off. And I have to say their coaching was very good. They called timeouts at the right times. And they honestly really impressed me. And Zaiwu was a beast on that game. It was unbelievable. So
Coaching, yeah.
RPK was really good too against Astralis. But overall, I think it wasn't just Zaiwu, but as a team in general, they all played extremely well.
Yeah, I guess it was a whole team effort. Like you saw, if you look at all the ratings, only one person on Vitality had under 1 and he had 0.99. It was RPK, whereas everyone on Astralis except for Zipnix had an under 1 rating, right? So I guess you really saw the whole team effort there. And you saw like the big guys from Astralis, like Magisk and Device, they kind of disappeared in the term or in this game. Like Device only had 46 kills, right? And then you saw the big boys from Vitality, like Zywoo, go for 75 and 52, which is crazy.
Astralis disappeared because Zywoo showed up.
Device, and he had the least amount of kills in the entire match.
So
like
I had to bring that
both
up,
teams.
I had to bring that up.
That was odd.
And he was my first overall pick. He was my tier 1.
Yeah. Okay.
I took simple.
But look at the difference. So Zywoo, he finishes with a plus 10 KD. He had 75 kills in this match. Device 46, and they were both tier 1 players. Pretty big. I mean, if I would have known for sure that Vitality was being heroic, I was going to draft Zywoo. Justin, I know you picked Device as well. If you knew for certain that Vitality was going to win, would that have changed your pick?
I've actually, every other draft on EliteDuels that we've done, I went full Vitality and picked Zywoo all the time. This is the only one that I picked Astralis. And because I thought, okay, they had the upset before, Astralis is going to come back, prove that they're number 1. Of course, they did not.
But would you have picked Zywoo if you would have known heroic, or they would have been heroic?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Just to say it was a whole team effort. Alex, he was a 5th tier, right?
Yes, he was. Him and RPK both.
They were both 5th tiers, and Alex went 68 and 57. And actually, he played well. Even in the finals, he played really well. I found the whole playoffs, I think Alex played really well. So I guess that kind of proves just how deep Vitality really is now, their roster, right?
Alex was top 5. He finished with 318 kills overall.
Yeah, he played well.
Just to let you guys know, Zywoo finished with 413 kills. The next one was Simple with 339.
Wow.
So just like an insane amount of kills from Zywoo.
Now, going to Astralis, now they're clearly still a top 5 team, probably top 3, arguably.
Are they?
I would say they are.
I think they're still a top 3 team.
I would say Liquid's the one. Liquid's one. Vitality, like, they're good, but this was, like, they've had a few good tournaments, but we can't, I wouldn't say we should, rush to conclusion like we do with
Can't
Ents.
brush them off, but I mean, like...
Yeah, like, they're good, but I would still put Astralis over them just because of history.
They haven't been as consistent as Liquid, and I want to say if Vitality performs the next one just as they did in Kelowna, then I'm saying, okay, Astralis is falling down the ladder here pretty quick.
I would say it's still Liquid. I would say Liquid has solidified themselves as one right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I would still say Astralis is top 3, and then after that, you could throw Ents, Vitality in there. Like, I don't know who else.
Ents? You're gonna throw Ents in there?
I still think they're good. They had one bad tournament, but they're still
one bad tournament.
Cologne. I can't remember what were the tournaments before that.
The Pro League,
and they did terrible at the Blast too.
Pro League in London. It wasn't in England. They were out. I think. I don't think they made playoffs there either.
They didn't make it to the playoffs.
That's true. Yeah. So I don't know who
you... Exact same roster 3-4 months ago. All we were talking about was Ents and Astralis in the finals.
Is it Na'Vi? Would you take Na'Vi over Vitality?
I think right now, based off of recent performances, you would have... My top 5 would be Liquid, Astralis, Na'Vi, Vitality, Ents. That's how I would put it.
I could see that. Yeah. Would you say Mouse Sports could get thrown in there?
Ooh,
maybe over Ents?
No, not yet.
Is Ents
not yet?
Ents the 5th there?
I have Ents top 5 still.
No. But out of the top 5, would Ents be your 5th?
Yes, that's what I said. I said Ents is number 5.
Yeah. Right. So, do you think Mouse Sports could joust with them for that 5th spot?
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing right now the top 5 kind of they shift amongst each other, but from 5 to 10, there's so much variability there. Like that changes consistently, like almost on a daily basis.
You got Frozen coming up.
Most
going to be like the greatest CSGO player coming up.
Watch out for Most. They've got a lot of good talent and they've got a good IGL. They're gonna do some stuff for the remainder of 2019.
Still Kerrigan, right?
Yeah. Like we know how good Rops is, but Frozen is really showing people how good he is now. Like the two of them together, you could see something similar to like what Electronic and Simple are.
Don't forget about Rops.
That's what I said.
Okay. Then I mean Woxic.
Yeah, Woxic too.
You got
Woxic,
Rops, and Frozen as your firepower. Chris J as a very, very good opper and experienced player overall, and then Kerrigan as a top 3 IGL right now in the world.
They remind me a lot of somewhat like Na'Vi, like that big 3, like same as like Electronic, Flamey, and Simple. And then I would say Kerrigan is better than Zeus IGL wise.
Yeah, for sure.
And then let's throw up into it. Like Boomich is still young or still hasn't played that much, but I'd say right now Chris J is better than Boomich. So I could definitely see. You would say Chris J is better than Boomich. Boomich is good, but
I would say Boomich
Boomich is good, but to say he's better than Chris J, right now, I don't think I could make that determination.
Give him a few
and
more.
vice versa. I couldn't say Chris
Yeah.
J's better. He has to stay with Navi for a couple more events and play some more games, because Chris J has been with Mouse and has been playing against tier 1 teams now for 3-4 plus years. So Boomich has been on win streak, which has been like
Up and down.
tier 1, tier 2, up and down. So it's tough to say, but right now, I mean, I'd probably give the edge a little bit to Chris J if you want to do that comparison.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. I could definitely see this team becoming a Navi-esque team. Just a lot of firepower. Like just a good team all around. I can definitely see Mouse
Definitely
Sports.
going to be watching Mouse Sports play in the future and be paying a closer eye to them. So
Going back to Astralis now Astralis, they're by no means are they fallen off the pedestal or anything like that. Like they're still, like I said, in my opinion, number 2 team. They're just behind Liquid. They consistently do make it to quarterfinals, semifinals, but they're not making grand finals.
well, let's talk about the group stage too. I mean, they didn't lose in the group stage too.
No, they had a bye right to the semis, so they were
So
1
that's
and
one thing
2.
just to mention.
They had the same essentially the same record as Liquid.
Liquid, yeah.
And then they just simply lost. They didn't perform that well in the semis. But overall, if you look at their performances, you've got Zipix, who finishes with the lead, and this is just fantasy points. He finishes with 16.37 fantasy points per map, followed up by Dupree with 15.68, Magisk with 14, Device at 11.9, and Glaive at 10.5. So
all still pretty good numbers.
all good numbers.
All
Good numbers. The one that's probably shocking and lowest, and again, it's only because of the semifinal performance, would be Device, right? Because typically you're going to see Device, he's going to be up at 15, 16 points per map consistently, and he probably was there before the semifinals, but right now, with that performance, it brings him down to 11.93. So probably not much to change. Maybe a little bit more pro games.
See,
But other than that, I don't think Astralis is gone by any means.
if we go to that, it's kind of odd they're not playing the Blast Pro this weekend coming up, right? Because
what's going on with
that is odd. Like they were only playing in Blast Pro, and now they're not playing in them.
Astralis is the Kawhi Leonard of CSGO.
Yeah, they're gonna rest. But
They practice load management. If you go look, I'm not even joking. They will not play back-to-back events. They will not play in one event one weekend and then follow up with another event the following weekend. They just won't do it. I haven't seen them.
But is that what's making the difference between them and Liquid? Like Liquid, they just did the Intel Grand Slam 68 days, and now they're playing in another Blast Pro, and they're probably gonna win it. Honestly, I would put my money on they're gonna win this one. So like, is that what's making the difference? Like Liquid is constantly playing games and they're constantly winning, so like they're always in form. Whereas Astralis, you can scrimmage all you want, but even then, you're not going to be playing at the same speed and level as you're going to be playing in tournaments, right?
Here's the thing. So look at recent history. So Liquid obviously is playing quite a bit of CS, but I'm going to use Vitality and ENCE as good examples here. Vitality has been playing almost every single week in pro events, whether like in some sort of tournament, whether it be on LAN or online. And so we saw that the same thing. So, earlier this year, they were participating in as many events as possible, all the Blast Pro Series, every single, DreamHacks, any possible tournament that they could have. Astralis, no. But one thing you've noticed is ENCE has slowed down on their the amount that they're playing, and look what's happened to their performance as of late. I think there's actually a correlation there.
But if you're playing a lot of games and you're constantly winning, I don't think you'll see slowdown because like if you're you still have the adrenaline, you're in the mode, right? You're hot, you're in the zone. I think it's if you start losing while playing a lot of games is when like how ENCE lost in the Pro League and they lost in Blast Pro and then the last few things, that's why they slowed down a lot. Where like now it's all hitting you, like you hit a wall almost. I see Liquid like they just keep pushing through, and I don't think you'll see them slow down until they start losing games consistently, which is the difference, right? If you just keep winning, I don't think you'll ever hit that wall, especially with a young team like Liquid. All these guys are like 19 and 20.
We said that with Astralis, though, and here they are hitting their wall.
Yeah, they're hitting their wall. They're not even playing a lot of games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
is there a
I
sweet
definitely
spot?
say-
Is there a sweet spot to like you don't want to play too many games, but you don't want to be like Astralis and be playing barely any tournaments?
Yeah, there
Is there
definitely is a sweet spot because you need time to review and to kind of go back to roots. Whereas if you're constantly playing games, where do you get that practice in? You'll keep making the same mistakes over and over just because you don't have time to actually practice and improve on them. So there definitely is a sweet spot. But I mean, if you're Liquid right now and you're winning, like you must be doing something right. So why take the time off? Whereas you can just keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go through all of Astralis' matches since May. So they played May 11th, and that was the Blast Pro Series in Madrid. Then they didn't play for a month, and that was the ECS Finals in June. And then from June, they didn't play from June 7th until June 18th. That was their next pro game, and that was at the ESL Pro League Finals. And then from June 20th, they didn't play anything until the ESL One Cologne. So I guess there's not that much of a break between the Pro League Finals and ECS, so they had a week off. But you did see, the start of their kind of decline in performance was when they lost the ECS Finals against Furia. They took an entire month off. From the Blast Pro Series in Madrid to the ECS Finals. They didn't play anything. And that's when they made to the finals and lost against Furia. And then slowly, I think, and then lost to NRG in the semifinals at ESL Pro League Season 9 finals.
That was a terrible game to watch.
Exactly. So maybe there is a correlation there. I don't know. We'll see. Only time will tell. I still think they're a top 3 team. And it'll be interesting to see. I don't think you're going to see any changes coming from them anytime soon.
No. I would say, Astralis was just so high in the ladder, they forgot to look down at the other teams below them. And I think by not competing and keeping up with the roster changes and seeing how these teams are working with each other, it just took them completely right out of the competition. But I got nothing but respect for the Danes. I'm sure they'll be back to it at the next tournament and get their heads on straight.
Yep, absolutely. Moving on to the other semifinals, Liquid plays Navi and beats Navi 2-0. A little bit of a surprising scoreline there. I would have given the edge to Liquid to begin with, but I would have thought that Navi would have taken one map.
Yeah, for sure.
But again, I was not surprised by the overall result. I was just surprised that Navi didn't win one map.
I think that goes to, I would say, like it's similar to what Astralis has with overall depth. Like from 1 to 5 on the Liquid team, every single one of them can become your top fragger. Whereas I think on Navi right now, like sure, Simple and Electronic are probably 2 of the top 5 players in the world. Flamey's not bad, but after that, Zeus is definitely a liability no matter how good he is as IGL. And then Boomich is one of his first tournaments. So I think that's the big difference in that game, why they got 2-0'd.
Yeah, honestly, I think with Boomage playing in, I think it kind of, messed with a little bit of Navi's play with the rest of the players. And so that's why I think Liquid was able to take that 2-0 pretty quickly.
So just to go through their stats, just for this game, Boomage actually led Navi in kills and in KD.
He was
and
insane
rating.
to watch. He was a highlight reel.
He was a plus 12 against Liquid and a 1.23 rating. He had 45 kills. The next closest was Flamey with 39 kills.
Yeah.
Again, just a touch point with Nick, it is good. It's important to have a good IGL, but the need for having an IGL who can also play the game is extremely high right now. You see Zeus was a minus 20 KD in this map, or in this matchup against Liquid.
Zeus, I'm sorry, I love you, but you're a bit of a plug right now.
Well, if you watch Nitro, who's the IGL for Liquid, he is very consistent. Like, it's very rare that you see him consistently at the bottom. Like, I can almost guarantee you, if you go back the last 20 maps for Navi, I bet you 18 or 19 of those, or maybe even 20, it's going to be close. Zeus is at the bottom of the scoreboard for every single one of those.
Yeah, if not every single one.
So, yeah, it's nice that you have an IGL and somebody who's going to do that for you. But at the same time, especially on defense, that's when I notice Zeus. Actually, no, Zeus is just weak on both ends of on offense and defense. But you just notice that he is the biggest weak point out there.
I mean, to be fair, in Zeus's defense, I think we're comparing apples to oranges with the chemistry that Liquid has as a team. For an IGL in that position, it's going to be a lot easier because he knows what his guys are going to be doing. Whereas Zeus, he's working with Boomage, his new guy, and his other players have to make changes in their play to accommodate for Boomage. So it's going to be a lot of different variations in that.
Whatever they did with Boomage, I would not change a thing.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Because his performance, obviously in that game alone was really good. But in general, for the entire tournament, he averaged 11.69 fantasy points per map, which gives him third place on their team, obviously.
Yeah, wow.
Actually, fourth place.
And that's his first time playing with them.
So not bad. Actually, all of Navi had extremely good tournaments, except for Zeus. He averaged 8.69. But you got Flamey at 13.5, Electronic at 15.5, and obviously Simple's at 18.53, he's amazing.
8.6 or whatever, I would usually expect that for Zeus. Any kind of low-ranked kind of IGL, I would expect between the 8 to 10 mark for fantasy points per match.
If you look at who, in terms of just straight-up strategies right now, who do you think is a better IGL, Nitro or Zeus?
Nitro.
Now it depends because we don't know. Like we can't tell. Like we're just telling by like what their KD is. But I think it's also because
I'm not saying don't look at their stats. I'm just saying in terms of team play,
right?
What everyone does.
But is that reflected by if we go like I said, the 4 guys on Liquid compared to the 4 guys on Na'Vi? There's much more chemistry on Liquid, so it's probably easier to be the IGL for them, right?
Well, if you want to look at it, so. From an IGL standpoint, I'd probably give the edge to Nitro right now. But as from a player standpoint, this is why probably Liquid's better than most of the other teams right now, because he's their IGL, and he averaged 16.04 fantasy points per map. That's somebody you see in Tier 1. Those are superstar numbers.
Yeah.
Well, let's say, put it this way. Let's say in some fantasy world, if Zeus goes on a Liquid, he speaks English and everything. Do I think that Zeus is going to play a lot better on Liquid? No.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be the exact same performer
In fact,
at 8 fantasy points per match.
If you make that trade, so if you put Nitro on Na'Vi and Zeus on Liquid, I would now put the favor into Navi's position to win that match.
Yeah. I would say Na'Vi would become probably the best team in the world at that point because Zeus is their weak spot right now. You put Nitro on there. Yeah. I guess we want to talk about, like, let's go look at the first game they played in Cologne where Liquid beat Na'Vi 2-1. Nitro had a plus 13 KD difference, and Zeus had a minus 23 KD difference. And I guess that's a difference, right? I mean, Nitro was their second best fragger just behind EliteDuels, where Zeus was, I think, 11 kills behind Flamey, who had the second most on.
Yeah. So I think what you're seeing now is you need an IGL who can at least try to stay as close to positive as possible. Like you can't have an IGL who's minus 20 in their games, but I think if you can have an IGL who can consistently stay below, anywhere between minus 8 and obviously anywhere in the positives is going to be a positive for your team. Like I wonder if we go back to Kerrigan and see how his performances were.
Well, yeah, you'll see definitely like a big. I want to say you probably will see a bell curve at some point, but right now, I would say rising to the top.
Yeah,
as an IGL.
See, but if I told you, like, if you just asked someone without telling them that Nitro was their IGL, if you said pick the IGL on that team, like, it would be a toss-up. Like, you don't really know. You couldn't just tell by the stats that Nitro is their IGL. You would say, oh, he's probably the third best fragger, honestly, or third or fourth best.
Well, in this tournament, he was their top fantasy performer.
Yeah.
You have, and we were gonna wait, but anyways, I guess we can move on to the finals with Vitality and Liquid. But for Liquid, you've got EliteDuels at 18.81 fantasy points per map. Then you go to Twist at 16.7, and then you get to Nitro at 16, NAF at 15.5, and Stewie at 13.63. So all well above average for this tournament.
Team right there.
Yeah. All well above average, and in fact, all of them were a positive KD for the entire tournament.
And you know what? That's always a difference we find in the grand final. It's 5v5. If one person doesn't show up, the other team wins.
And moving on to Vitality, a little bit heavy or top-ended here. Zaiwu finishes, or Zaiwu or Ziwu. It'd be nice to know what the official pronunciation of his name is, because they were using both in the tournament. But Zaiwu finishes on top. We'll use Zaiwu with 18.2. So EliteDuels actually had the most fantasy points per map in the entire tournament. Zaiwu finishes with 18.2, followed by Alex at 11.4, Apex at 10.3, NBK at 10.1, and RPK at 9.64. So what you're seeing here is an overall balanced team with one superstar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. That's a superstar team.
When you look at Astralis, when you compare those stats to Astralis on paper should have absolutely dominated Vitality.
Yeah.
Before going into that semifinal game and that matchup, like going back, their lowest player was Glaive at 10.5. Everyone else is above 11 and pretty close to being above 12 because Device is at 11.93. The rest are all in the 14, 15, and 16.
But I mean, Liquid has Astralis stats right now because before like Glaive and who was it? Glaive and someone else at 10 and 11. That's
Glaive was at 10.5, and he's their IGL. And then you have Device at 11.9.
Yeah,
which is
those
low.
guys are usual 17, 16 fantasy points.
Yeah,
per match.
Device is usually where Zaiwu and Elige and Simple are. He's going to be between 17 and 18.
So maybe just those two are suffering the most from not playing all the other teams the most?
Perhaps. But what I'm trying to say here is that Vitality's overall points and their performances were actually extremely low. Zaiwu obviously was a positive KD and had 18.2 fantasy points per map. But then I go to Alex, he has a negative KD for the entire tournament. I go to Apex, he has a negative KD. I go to RPK, negative KD. NBK, negative KD for the entire tournament.
Keep in mind, too, though, that Navi played
lot,
13 games and Astralis only had 8.
Yeah.
So.
Vitality in total played 17 maps.
It's tough to keep a positive KD when you play that many maps.
It's tough, but I would have guessed that more at least 2 players on the team that made it to the finals would have a positive KD. I don't know. It just seems weird that only one player has a positive KD.
I would expect the opposite, because I would expect that more along the group stages. You're gonna see a lot more positive KDs because you're gonna get like high teams facing those low teams. Where in the playoffs, you're gonna get kind of the very similar match. You're gonna see those even numbers, low KD.
So, I guess what this indicates is that they heavily rely on Zaiwu for his fragging ability because the next closest guy was Alex at 318 kills. Zaiwu had 413.
And only
he had
281 deaths.
95 more kills than the next closest person on his team.
Yeah, insane.
That's actually crazy when you think about it.
But it's also Zaiwu has to show up every single time now or Vitality's not going to win. They're never going to be able to win a grand final ever again.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You see that in the you saw in the finals they got 3-1. Or they got 3-1 by Liquid. On Liquid, like I said, everyone had over a 1.0 KD or a rating, whereas on Vitality the next highest besides Zaiwu was RPK with a 0.9, right? So
it's going to kill Vitality is their consistency.
Which I guess they are a newer team right now, so you got to expect some bumps. So I guess this was a good showing for them, but they're definitely going to need more help besides Zaiwu's performances.
I bet you we'll see all the Vitality guys, their fantasy points per match right now are through the roof. Next tournament, we'll be going through it, and I bet you they'll be all 8, 10, or whatever, all around the middle mark.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's interesting.
Except for Zaiwu.
Yeah, so looking at this, you've got against Liquid in the finals, they only had one guy in Zaiwu who has a positive KD, and it actually reflects on the entire tournament because he was their only guy with a positive KD.
Yeah.
Apex was obviously their weakest. He didn't have the best performance. Minus 36 KD.
And to be honest, I was surprised of that. Usually, I look to Apex for one of my top fantasy performer guys. I'm glad I kind of stayed away from him.
He had a rough time. So he's Vitality's entry fragger, and he just did not win enough of those fights. And he didn't. Usually you can try to get what you're hoping for your entry fragger is to get a trade off. So he gets the first pick, and then he's most likely going to die. And then you have somebody behind them getting the trade, right? And then that opens up the site usually because you get 2 kills for 1. But what we were seeing was Apex going down first, and the second guy either having to make that kill or him going down as well. Again, though, you can't really put all of that on Apex. Yeah, he's their entry fragger. He didn't do the best, but a lot of their setups possibly weren't that great, right? Where their entry flash is good, pop flash is good, so that Apex could get good looks on those duels. Not as sharp as they could have been. But
fair point.
Again, based off of how quickly Vitality has come into the pro scene. A lot of these guys did play with each other before on Envious, when Envious had their French team. But again, having Alex and Zaiwu come in with RPK, MBK, and Apex, and in a short period of time, they're putting up pretty good performances here. So I personally, again, they're a top 5 team right now. I wouldn't really make many changes as it stands.
I think it's a short fuse, though. I think they're going to blow up eventually, and we'll see them start to drop back down. Because, like I said before, I don't think that consistency is there with Vitality. Like you said, with Apex not getting those entry fraggers, and it's some games it's not going to go your way. You're not going to get those entry frags, so the team has to make some kind of changes or something to overcome the the obstacle that they're facing. And Vitality, I don't think is a team that can do that. They need Zaiwu to perform, and that's it.
Yeah, it is odd because, like we were saying before, going through their stats, all of their stats, individual stats for this tournament were very poor. If you looked at them, you wouldn't see them as a team that made it to the finals, right? If you look at the individual stats, you're looking at Astralis. They had very good stats. Na'Vi had very good stats. Even Nip, most of Nip's players and NRG's players had better statistics individually than Vitality. But somehow Vitality pushed through, made it to the finals, even with their players playing poor, except for Zaiwu, obviously. So I think right now what we're seeing is just a good timing situation with Vitality coming up against different teams, and certain guys having good games on certain maps, and another guy steps up, and then it just carries forward, and you end up winning the games, right?
It was cool to see, though, that Vitality just broken and bruised through the group stages and then carrying themselves all the way up to the grand final. It was pretty great underdog.
If you had Vitality players, just because they had to go through the losers, if you had to go through the losers bracket, you were very happy because overall, and for fantasy points purposes, they got you a lot. You've got MBK with 172, RPK with 164, Apex with 175.5, Alex with 195, and then you have Zaiwu with 309.5 fantasy points.
And that's kind of a thing to factor in, because you honestly, the best fantasy pick, you want to pick a team who's going to have a really tough beginning, so that they get knocked down into that losers bracket and they crush everyone in that losers bracket.
That's
all
the
the way
dream.
Up to the grand final.
That's
what you want.
That's definitely the dream that you want.
Nope.
So,
but
normally, obviously, if I pick
that's
Liquid
scary.
and Astralis, whatever, for the grand final, and they play each other at the beginning, I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of sucks. But now it's okay. It's not too bad, because maybe just one will get knocked down to the losers bracket, and I can rack up some points there. So
yeah, exactly. So I guess what we'll do now is review our fantasy teams for the playoffs based off of our drafts, and we'll tell you guys where we ended up and who was the very first loser of the Hot Wing Challenge, I guess you could say, for the playoffs.
Hot Wing Tendies.
The Hot Wing
I also want to
chicken
point out
tenders.
that only 2 players made it over 200 fantasy points. Zaiwu made it into 300.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's crazy.
it's
He's definitely
yeah.
the guy you want to look for in the next tournament.
It's
Yeah,
exciting.
your
He's
top-
exciting to watch. It'll be
Top
interesting how he
points
does.
309, bottom for the 5th place 195.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So we go to standings here. So
So who finished first?
we're gonna find out right now. So I'm gonna look. Where am I?
Because I'm
You
definitely
marked,
eating a chicken tendy
11th.
today. You guys got 11th?
Did I go? No, I didn't finish 11th. This is in the playoffs. So the person who finished the highest, finished in first place, was Aaron. Aaron finished.
Whoa.
Aaron
Oh,
finished.
in CS?
Yeah,
First
for
tournament,
CS
too.
for CS playoffs, Aaron finished with 392.5 fantasy points. Just to recap his team, he had Simple, Elige, NAF, Apex, and RPK. Obviously, picking RPK and Apex were risks at the time, because if Vitality lost to Heroic, he's most likely
They
eating.
were playing when we
Yeah.
were.
If
When
they
we were
lose,
picking.
you're most likely eating one of these wings today. But you end up getting them for quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals for the playoffs.
Is it safe to say I just dethroned Nick?
I just realized.
Well, I guess you technically did.
I forgot to put my team in.
Well, what's your team?
It was Simple.
I can get the points
It was
right now.
it was Simple, Twist, Dupree, Nitro, and Alex.
Okay, so I'll
did I
figure it out right now.
We'll find out right now.
We'll see right now.
We gotta do quick
Automatic
math.
lose if you don't put it in.
Actually, that should be a disqualification.
Yeah.
Well, we know you lost the other one.
I lost the
So
other one. No way I lost this one.
okay, so what
Come
was
on.
your team?
It was Simple, Twist, Nitro, Dupree, and Alex.
Okay, hold on here.
It's a
Simple.
pretty nasty team.
If you lose both, then you gotta eat both.
Ali, both.
Yeah, Justin's praying for this right now.
No, I'm not that lucky. I'm eating a chicken tendy.
Okay, so Simple. Who else?
Simple, Twist.
Okay, I
I
gotta.
think you beat me.
I had
Simple.
Twist for sure.
And with Twist.
You may have beaten Justin.
I think you did.
So
100%.
Because I'm... What am I? I'm one... oh, no,
okay, so you had
jeez.
Simple, then you had Twist.
Twist.
Twist finished with 99 fantasy points in the playoffs.
Dupree.
Dupree, I also had Dupree.
Nitro.
Yep.
Alex.
I think
Yeah,
who had Alex?
A couple of top five.
Did you draft Alex? No, you drafted RPK and Apex, right? I gotta find Alex here. Let's go see
Okay,
how.
yeah, 195.
195, yeah.
No,
That's the
no,
entire
for the
tournament,
playoffs. I have it right here. Hold on one
Yeah.
second. Vitality.
Oh, that's for the tournament.
Alex had 96.
Yeah, he's above me. I'm
So
360.
you finished with 366 points.
How many did you finish with?
392.
So went
So I dethroned
Aaron.
Wow.
Aaron with 392.5. Then it goes Nick with 366. Then it goes me with 320. And then where's Justin here?
Yeah, I picked all Astralis and Liquid, okay? I know.
Where are you?
I'm number 88.
You're 88?
Oh, no, wait.
No, I think
88.
you're further. What's your team name? Oops. Oh, let's do a quick search
Justin
for
Huber?
Justin. You finished 88th with 260 points.
Correct, sir.
Not terrible,
It would
but
have been great if it was Astralis Liquid
I
final.
beat you.
I'd be
So I
laughing.
beat you by 30 points. No, more. I beat you by 40 points.
Oh, okay. That's not too
It
bad.
was a 40-point differential, and the differential became from me having RPK in the finals.
yeah.
I had 3 guys in
only
the
time I don't
finals.
pick any Vitality.
So, anyways, because of that, Justin's going to be eating the spicy chicken tender for losing the CSGO today, or the CSGO contest over the weekend for
Did it on
Cologne.
purpose.
Again, we're going to be coming up very shortly on doing that. We're going to probably now move on to Rocket League. And do we have any closing points here for the ESL One Cologne tournament?
Congratulations, Liquid. Wonderful tournament.
Yeah.
Glaive, you had that op on, what was it, Inferno? I'm going to watch that again and again for probably the next 2 weeks. Zaiwu, you're phenomenal. I'd like to see the consistency moving forward in the next tournaments. And you got to have a talk with the other guys on the team. Get them to step it up a little bit because you can't do that every single game, okay? It's just inhuman. But if you can, all the power to you.
I also want to say this was the last time we'll probably see Colzera ever play for MIBR. So, kind of a
Very
bad way
true.
to
And
end it.
just so everyone knows, we're on Thursday. We'll be releasing the Blast Pro Series podcast, and we'll be announcing obviously our next challenge during that podcast. So make sure you look out for that. We'll be doing our we'll touch base on the 6 teams that are playing in there. We'll do a preview. We'll do our draft, and then we'll announce what the challenge will be for the loser of that event. So stay tuned.
No Astralis and Blast.
Yes, and no Astralis. And that
God,
tournament
my
actually is up on EliteDuels.com. So you can visit EliteDuels.com and draft your team for the upcoming Blast Pro Series in LA, which takes place on Saturday of this week. Anyways, again, big shout out to Liquid and congratulations on not only winning the tournament, but winning the Intel Grand Slam and putting an extra $1 million in the pockets of Liquid. I'm hoping some of that does go to the players. We'll see. And obviously they get those nice gold bars, which is fantastic. And obviously
cool.
they did it in the shortest amount of time ever. I think it was 63 total days to win it. So again, congratulations. It's nice to see NACS number 1 and on the top right now. And again, we'll look forward to watching them at the Blast Pro Series. So moving on to Rocket League. Definitely one of the things I want to talk about is definitely different format, and you can see the difference between the RLCS quality of teams versus a DreamHack event.
Yeah, I want to say I was talking to Aaron before we started filming. I was saying it was kind of like watching the RLRS, just with kind of how, I don't want to say unprofessional, I don't want to say disorganized, but just kind of how interesting it was. Maybe that's the right word.
I agree that DreamHack in general could have done a better job with their show and with the organization of the show. I don't know if you guys could agree with
I
that.
gotta say their CSGO DreamHacks are
They're great.
top notch.
Yeah, they're good.
But DreamHack, what's going on here with Rocket League?
Yeah.
I was not too impressed.
I agree. So I'll start off. We'll start off with the playoffs because they did play so many games.
So many
on the
games.
Friday and Saturday. So we're gonna touch base just on the playoffs here, and I'll start off in the quarterfinals. Just give me 1 sec to
Yeah.
pull it up here.
Here, you want quarterfinals? First one was Renault Vitality.
Yeah,
NRG
Vitality against NRG.
3-0. That was a huge upset. I don't know what happened to Vitality. It looks like they just kind of forgot how to play Rocket League on those 3 games.
I don't know if it was a huge upset, because I think NRG, like I had NRG, I had NRG picked to go to not only the finals, but I had NRG to win the entire event. But to get swept 3-0 in a quarterfinals after you just won the biggest Rocket League event of the year seemed a little odd. And I don't know, Aaron, if you want to touch base more on that.
Well, I think the big thing was almost everybody was playing sloppy in DreamHack. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's a curse or something that's going on.
There's whiff medicine going around.
Everybody, coming from the RLCS play style and how good everybody was playing to DreamHack, there was just so many mistakes. And almost looked like Vitality was maybe, I wouldn't say like cocky, but they were too confident in themselves.
Yeah, you know.
Maybe
winning RLCS, I don't know if they were maybe not as prepared for this tournament or what it was, but you could definitely see which teams wanted it more than others.
There might be too much
partying,
too much alcohol in the water in Valencia, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, we start off with NRG defeating Vitality 3-0. It goes 3-1, 1-0, and 5-2. So
that changed the whole tournament for me, because I was going on Vitality for the finals all the way.
It did kind of suck that both of those teams ended up matching up in the quarterfinals, because you ended up having River Rats against Complexity, which were 2 of the lower ranked teams, as well as even Barcelona against Bricks. It would have been nice to see those 2 teams split up, but again, that's just how everything played out with the draw.
Yeah, I would have liked to seen a Vitality, Barcelona, NRG, Bricks first off, and then take it to the semifinals.
Yeah, I personally thought both those teams, that should have been a semifinals or finals matchup. It sucks they played in the quarters, but again, a 3-0 for NRG, who had a very, very good tournament in general, and quite unfortunate. I'm going to pull up the stats here for the Vitality players so we can review them.
Anyone with NRG was very happy. All players were over
I had
to.
Points.
Incredible.
That's why I won. So going to Vitality, you've got Fairy, who ended up with 134 points. You got Scrub with 112 and K-Dop with 140. One of the biggest things here is the amount of goals scored was quite low.
But another thing was they didn't have to play as many games. They went right to the finals, basically.
Yeah, they got to buy through, eh?
Yeah.
Well,
maybe maybe that's it. Maybe they didn't play as many games, and then they step in and play NRG on the very final day of the playoffs, the first game of the playoffs, and lose.
In day 1 and day 2, they swept every single team. Like, for example, in day 1, actually, in all 4 games that they played in the 2 days, they 3-0'd every single team.
So again, I'm gonna give my 2 cents on this event. In my opinion, I like DreamHack events. I think they are professional. But in terms of the Rocket League, it's not done on the right. There should not be an open division. I don't think for DreamHack events that you could have high tier teams with guys who are coming from RLCS. The top teams in RLCS coming through, and Vitality, you see, even Ground Zero, NRG, Rogue, PSG, Barcelona, etc. The list goes on, and you can't have guys coming in on the open and having to come play them on day 1. It's just a waste of time.
I completely agree, but I'd say I do like the aspect though of having, let's maybe not do 5 or 10 teams that shouldn't be there. Let's do maybe 2 seeded teams that have to go through a separate tournament in order to qualify for the DreamHack. That would be exciting to see.
There were a total of 32 teams at this event just for Rocket League.
I feel like we could cut that down in half. Like, even the amount of
16
games as a viewer was a lot.
Because at 32, out of those 32 teams, like you were touch base on, Aaron, how many of those teams are going to be competitive to the point where each game is going to be close? Probably not many.
Not many at all.
Not many. Maybe half if you're lucky.
I think a big thing you see in Rocket League is there's a lot of sweeps. Like, it's just always, you always see 3-0s, 3-1s, but you never see a series that's like very, very close.
Momentum is so huge in Rocket League, so different from CSGO in that sense, where CSGO someone could be down, 14-1 and they could have a comeback, where in Rocket League if you're down 3-0 with 2-3 minutes left, you're pretty much done.
And it's really easy to tilt in Rocket League. Like in CS, at least you have 4 other teammates. But in Rocket League,
keeping you positive.
Everybody is always playing a role at all times. And, and as soon as you let your guard down, the other team will capitalize like instantly.
I think in terms of the event and in terms of the broadcast, if you cut it down to 16 or even 8 teams instead of running 32, that's when you have yourself the same, probably the same quality of broadcast and tournament as you would for, say, a CSGO or even an Overwatch event at that point. I think they diluted their product by having too many teams at this event. It was unnecessary, and it was a lot of games in the end for these players. That's a lot of games.
Some of the games, too, are a little bit scary. Like, I forget specifically who it was, but they left even before the game had finished just because they were getting dominated.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a viewer, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see good competition of Rocket League. I don't want to see one team blowing another out of the water. It's not what I'm there for.
So, hopefully, the next DreamHack event is in Montreal, and that's when we'll see Rocket League again. There are various smaller events, but DreamHack Montreal is when you'll see all the big teams come out again. So, I believe Rocket League and Pro Rocket League in general, they kind of go on a break right now for about a month and a half. They're probably just scrimming and playing smaller games here and there, but we were talking off air beforehand that there hasn't been an announcement as of yet. I mean, we should double check with the merger/acquisition of Epic Games over Rocket League. They haven't announced when the next Pro League event is going to be or when it's going to start. Typically, it probably would have been announced already.
Yeah, nothing. I haven't seen any news yet.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. Is there any speculation as to what their Pro League is going to look like?
I think they're going to keep the same format. I think Rocket League originally did a very good job with how they set everything up, but you're going to see lots of money go in. And I think with the money is going to come brand new players and just a lot more competition.
Do you think we'll see for Rocket League a free-to-play introduced?
Yeah, I think they will for sure. Just because you're seeing a lot of the big eSport games going that way. Like CSGO just went free-to-play. And, it's really making their money off cosmetics and just bringing in people to the esports. The bigger the esport, the more people that are going to watch it and going to want to play.
Interesting. Okay, so rounding up there. So again, NRG defeats Vitality 3-0. Moving on to the second quarterfinal matchup of Randy Gibbons River Rats and Complexity Gaming. Complexity taking that game 3-2. This is where I wanted to come in and say and kind of follow up on all of the whiffs that we saw and just the overall level of play at this tournament in general. But watching this series was, I guess what you could say is sloppy and kind of noticing the difference between Tier 1 and watching Vitality versus NRG and then going and watching River Rats and Complexity. And Complexity is not a terrible team, but you can definitely see they're not there yet when it comes to playing any of the Tier 1 events or Tier 1 teams.
A-star team yet.
But they all have both teams have very solid players, but I think they were kind of last minute, just teams that got put together.
Yeah.
And not teams that, have been practicing and establishing themselves, like Energy, Vitality, Cloud9.
Very true. Again, not much to say there. 3-2 for River Rats, 3-2 for Complexity. They moved on to the semifinals to face
Even all the
NRG.
whiffs too. That was fun to watch.
So that was the game with the 3 whiffs, right?
Yeah, that was a whiff.
That clip, it was the ball's just sitting there bouncing, and 3 guys go flying by it.
Yeah, and Fireburner. Or no, Corrupted G? I think it was Corrupted G.
It was Corrupted G.
Corrupted G scored it.
Yeah.
After 3
Then moving on to another pretty stacked matchup in the quarterfinals, we have PSG Esports versus Cloud9, and PSG wins this matchup 3-2. One thing I noticed was Cloud9, or I'm sure everyone noticed, is PSG does a reverse sweep on Cloud9. Cloud9 was up 2-0 in this series, and PSG came back and ended up winning the series 3-2. One of my takeaways from the matchup was Squishy. I noticed Squishy not just 1 or 2 times, but there are numerous times where he either whiffed on shots or completely missed the net. And typically those are goals, and probably ended up being the difference maker in this series. So I'm not sure what you guys thought, but that's what I saw when I was going through the VODs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with Rocket League, there's only 5 minutes in the game, right? So it's so quick. That one goal differentiator can be, the end it or make it. So definitely, I 100% agree with you on that.
I think the 5-1 loss definitely changed their mindset a little bit, maybe made them less confident, and right after that game, you see that they didn't even score a goal on PSG.
They scored one goal after their first two, so they won. The first two games were 3-1, 3-1. The third game was when they lost 5-1, and then they got shut out twice.
Yeah.
So they scored one goal in 3 games after that, and definitely difference points, and that's definitely where it comes in, where we saw a lot of guys missing their shots. And I believe did you guys stack Cloud9 players? Or did you just take one?
I think just in general, stacking Cloud9 is always a safe bet, but it just happened to not work out this time. I'm pretty sure I picked a Squishy.
I had Squishy too.
Yeah, see, I didn't. I took Justin as my tier 1 over Squishy.
One
So-
thing I noticed in Cloud9 in general is I used to think Squishy was the best, but I'm starting to believe that Torment is the number one guy.
Torment had 3 more goals in this event than Squishy. Squishy had the least amount.
his
Gimmick
skill
is less, but his game knowledge is
Gimmick
better
had
than
more
Squishy.
as well.
Mhm.
And
Gimmick had more too, eh?
Gimmick had more goals, and so did Torment. Squishy had 7,
Wow.
Gimmick had 8, Torment had 10. Another thing to note here is that both Torment and Gimmick had more saves than Squishy. So not a lot to add here. In fact, he was in last place for every single one of the stat categories for goals, assists, shots, saves, wins. Goals, assists, shots, and saves. He had the least amount in all 4 of those categories than Torment and Gimmick.
Yeah, I feel like Squishy's all highlights, or he's not really performing.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how disappointing the Renegades were in this tournament? Like, oh my goodness! Like, you lose 3 games in a row, and one of them was to you lost eSports and then lost Potato.
But to be honest,
You
they
lose
didn't really
too?
have a great performance at the RLCS either.
But you
I kind of
expect it.
I didn't really expect them to make playoffs.
Yeah, but you expect a professional club to beat a team called Lost Potato, who doesn't even have a logo. Like you really
Lost
expect
Potato
yeah.
eSports
They
now.
lost to one of the guys coming in.
That was a guy I had minus points because
me
of
too.
Renegades.
I had a guy, Cammy.
Yeah,
Cammy had negative
I
5.
think we all had Cammy
Cam
minus
was
5
in the
points.
RLCS too. He had minus points.
All these players, they were all experienced players. To see him lose, you can tell they need a roster change. It's very obvious that these players just aren't mending well together.
With Rocket League too as an esport, there's not really a whole bunch of tournaments that these guys can try out for and really compete and kind of.
It's honestly,
test the waters, right?
it's just DreamHack events, really, and then just their pro league. That's it. That's all they really have.
RLRS, and that's pretty much it. Unless
Going
you want to do
back-
like online ones.
Going back to the acquisition from Epic Games, they have a policy in where they don't allow third parties to host tournaments on them. So that's why in Fortnite you just see.
Thank you.
We're getting ready.
Just preparing here. We're
Preparing.
coming close to the end, so we're getting the anti-spice agents, I guess you could say, for the 2 losers who have to eat these wings today.
Are we sure I'm the loser?
We are 100% positive.
Can we really double check? Can we triple check it, please?
Yeah, so going back, as you see in Fortnite, only Epic Games can run tournaments for them. So I don't know what's going to happen with these DreamHack events or what's going to go on for Rocket League. Because you might just see only Epic Games sanctioned events.
See, I think if that's how it does go, I think it'd be a huge deterrent to Rocket League in general.
for sure.
I think allowing for third-party events to occur and take place is beneficial. The more events and the more that you can watch pro players play, the better. It's only beneficial for your esports as in general. If you go back and look at Fortnite, how many events have they had? Pro events.
One, World Cup.
Well, World Cup, but they've
had
was
one.
at
There's a bunch of online
PAX West. They put on an event, right? They did the summer skirmish?
But those were all invite only. So you're still not truly getting the true professional play.
But you're lucky to get one event every 4 months. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And they were
enough.
only inviting like streamers and
That's
stuff.
what I
It
mean.
wasn't actually like
Not enough.
competitors. Like,
The upcoming World Cup is going to be their very first true pro event where you had to qualify to get there. So you're only going to see the guys who should be there. You're not going to see invitation only players, right? So you're not really seeing any of the big streamers. I mean, probably the only big main streamer that's going is Tfue, who's the only guy who qualified.
Yeah.
All the other guys are smaller or relatively unknown in general. So again, probably one of the reasons why, like, Fortnite is a big game right now because it's fun to play, for general consumers. But when you go and talk about it as an esport, it really has, at this point, doesn't have much of a chance as growing as an esport because they're not putting on enough events, number one. And obviously there's other things that we'll discuss in upcoming podcasts with regards to BRs. But going back to the Rocket League thing, I think if Epic does put a constraint on the amount of third-party events that can take place for Rocket League, it would be a deterrent and slow down the growth.
For Epic,
yes. Yeah.
So you kind of saw the esports starting to come out when they were doing Friday Fortnite, but then that kind of just got shut down right away when Epic was throwing out. They threw out a few big tournaments like Summer Skirmish that kind of blew it at the exact same time. Kind of blew it out of the water. But at that point, when you had Friday Fortnite last year, that was when you really saw like the esports almost coming alive. Then you saw a mixture of streamers and pros playing the game, right?
And yeah, that's the other thing that was, I guess, it was good at the beginning. And that was kind of like the very first esport event for Fortnite. But like you said, you were mixing streamers and content creators with pros. And in my opinion, then it's just a thing to watch rather than it being an esport.
Yeah,
right.
For me, it's like a TV show.
Exactly, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
It's entertainment, and esport it is entertainment. But you want to watch the best of the best, right?
I wanna see
like what was it? Two weeks ago, they had LeBron James Jr. playing Friday Fortnite.
Yeah,
like
I don't care to watch that.
Exactly. But anyways, moving on to back to Rocket League. So PSG wins, beats Cloud9 3-2. They move on to the semifinals, and then we have Barcelona versus the Bricks. This, in my opinion, was the upset of obviously the tournament, with the Bricks beating Barcelona. I thought Barcelona played extremely poor. I didn't like their game at all. The games went 3-2, 3-1, 3-0, 1-0, 2-1. So actually a lot of low scores here. And just to recap, Barcelona and their statistics, individual statistics for the tournament. We've got Bluey with 5 goals, 6 assists, 31 shots, and 17 saves for 150 fantasy points. Devo with 6 goals, Devo with 5 goals, 4 assists, 25 shots, and 18 saves for 141 fantasy points. And then you've got Alpha with 9 goals, 4 assists, 29 shots, 29 saves for 218 fantasy points. So Alpha playing extremely well defensively, but just not enough production up front for goals.
That Alpha, Devo, Bluey. I mean, like from my understanding from the RLCS, they kind of shit the bed then too.
You've got Bluey with 5 goals, Devo with 5 goals, and then Alpha finishes with 9. So
I'm excited Bricks though. I'm happy to see Bricks take out Barcelona.
Why do you think Bricks defeated them in this series?
Well, Barcelona played poor in RLCS as well. They haven't had too many good performances. The last good performance they had was at the ESL Masters, and that was earlier last month. So, I mean, I don't know.
Barcelona I wouldn't consider like a top 5 team, maybe top 15, but.
But would you not think that this is a game they should have won?
100%.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The Bricks went on to play PSG and lost 4-1.
I think they came out with problems in the RLCS, and they didn't fix them in time for this tournament, and I think that's really what cost them.
I also think it comes down to just like Barcelona is used to playing all the kind of like top tier teams. So as soon as they run into a team like Bricks, who kind of doesn't use the same kind of aerial movement as those top team does, they use more the ground game, a little bit more of a deking. They kind of have trouble with that.
So when you look at, if you do a comparison to CSGO and Rocket League at this event, and you have, again, tier 1 teams playing against fairly unknown teams, right? Is there a fair amount of review or VOD reviews that are done before you play a game? Like, for example, does Barcelona go watch game tape on the Bricks? Or do they just go in and play them and just play their game and see if they can beat them?
Well,
That's a good question.
The thing with the Bricks is they're relatively new as well. They had a lot of roster changes, but they also have a solid roster. Whereas Cookser, he's kind of like an OG. Like, he's been around for a very long time. He's like one of the guys that have a lot of experience.
Yeah, I remember watching him when I was a little kid.
But the big thing with Rocket League is it's not so much a VOD review as it is knowing your rotation. Once you have guys that are, losing up their rotations, that's when you're having 2-on-1s happen or just open nets. And you saw a lot of those happen in the Barcelona games. I think they just need to maybe scrim a little bit more and just kind of figure out their places on the field.
So Barcelona against the Bricks was able to put up 7 goals. 7 goals. PSG put up 11 goals. But one of the things you look is at their defense. PSG only allowed 5 goals against the Bricks, right? If you look at Barcelona, they let up 4, 7. They let up 10 goals again. So that so they let up their average in 2 goals a game, which is again it's pretty low when you look at it. But the difference there is they could not put the ball in the net. They could not score. They had in their last 3 games they only scored 2 goals against the Bricks.
It goes back to the rotation. If you have a flawless rotation, you'll find players they're just in position to smash the ball into the net.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it matters so much on how the other team is playing. It matters more on how your team is playing. Because if you guys are working together and you're making passes to each other, you're going to stomp all over that other team. They're probably going to get an opportunity to touch the ball. And that's where we said, that kind of like rollover happens where as soon as a team starts to score 1-2 goals, then it just turns into a blowout after that.
If you have one guy miss an easy clear, for example, it leaves everybody out of position. And that's when the other team.
And it's so easy too to get a weird bounce off a wall.
Exactly.
And you what should have been an easy shot, it should have been an easy goal, isn't. And it's 1 goal in that 5 minutes. That's the factor. So I mean, it's so easy to make a mistake.
Exactly.
So moving on to semifinals, which both were lopsided. NRG handles Complexity 4-2, and PSG defeats the Bricks 4-1. Again, both results are expected when you see that. And then the finals, which was fantastic, I have to say. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that was a great final.
NRG versus PSG. PSG ends up winning the tournament and defeats NRG 4-2, kind of sending Fireburner into retirement with a little bit of a negative connotation. But nonetheless, great overall tournament. I thought, we're speaking off air, I was so impressed with Fruity's defensive plays. The amount of saves he had made, especially in the last game. I think it was like 3 or 4 saves in the last 10 seconds he had made. And I think Shawset made a really nice one too. But he really stood out as one of the best defensive players in the tournament in general.
I gotta say, for when I do a lot of the highlights too, it's easy to find all the goals and stuff, but some of the saves are the epic saves. They get kind of, tossed under the rug because it's, just because of the angle that it is. But the saves that some of these guys make are absolutely insane. Just like you're saying, especially when it comes down to that overtime or last couple of seconds of the game, everyone just seems to kind of get a jolt of energy, and it becomes super intense for that last 15-10 seconds. So
what I'll do now, we'll go to the Rocket League standings and review our internal draft.
Well, while we're doing that, I just want to say I'm really excited to see who the third member of Energy is going to be now. Because Fireburner, in my opinion, was a big weak point for them. We have Justin and Garrett, who are phenomenal players. So whoever can come in and fill that gap, if it's someone really good, you're going to see Energy being a top team, 100%.
Well, I think they've definitely proved themselves to be a top team in both RLCS, the championships, and in DreamHack. But again, they've got about a month and a half. Are there any rumors flying around right now as to who's going to replace Fireburner for the third member on NRG?
Not any that I know, but
I bet no one's going to say anything this soon.
I mean, it's early. It's only a day after
within
the event, right?
Few weeks, something will happen. Someone will come fill.
Anything
be on Twitter?
Any player that comes to mind that's looking for a change or that's a free agent right now?
That's a good question because there's so many different players, and especially I'd like to see with some of the kind of the A teams and the B teams. I'd really like to see them kind of pull a young kid from a B team.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see someone from dignitas or River Rats, TSM.
River Rats, no way. They're too much of a.
What about Corrupted?
I mean,
I can see Corrupted staying as is. They've been playing together for quite a bit now.
I think they need a good support player.
They need a young gun.
Garrett and Justin are extremely good offensively, but if they can have someone that's very good on the defense,
just kind of support. Let them go play and He just kind of hangs
Someone
back.
who can just hold their ground.
Yeah, and reads their ability to play.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, we'll go into our standings here for Rocket League. So, yours truly finished in first place for the Rocket League event. Like I said when I did our draft, I was leaning heavily on NRG, and it played out for me. So I had Justin, Fairy Peak, Garrett, G, Bluey, and Cammy on my team. Justin finished with 512 points. Fairy Peak had 119. Garrett G had 498 points. Bluey with 190, and Cammy with -5. That gave me 1,314 fantasy points for the weekend. Followed up in second place.
Was me.
Let's see. What position? Oh, there you are. 32nd, right? Yeah, 32nd place overall. Aaron finishes with 997 fantasy points. His team was K-Dop, Squishy, Garrett G, Bluey, and Cammy. Obviously, big disappointments with K-Dop and Squishy. K-Dop only with 125 fantasy points. Squishy Muffins with only 189, which is extremely low considering I think the last event.
Or like over 500.
Oh, he had like over 400 or 500 fantasy
Way
points.
over 500.
But the bright side is you don't have to eat a chicken wing, or you don't have to burn your mouth
And
today.
I was favored to eat the chicken wing for CSGO. I want to point that out.
And then we've got Justin. He's actually a close second behind Aaron.
Behind you.
He has 983 points, so you're only 15 points behind Aaron. Justin's team was Devo, Fairy Peak, Garrett G, Bluey, and Rick's Ronde. And Rick's Ronde giving you a solid -5.
Solid -5. Thanks, Rick.
Devo finishes with 181 points. Fairy Peak 119, Garrett G 498, and Bluey with 190 fantasy points.
It's always the tier 5. The tier 5 is the hardest. Either you pick a guy who's
Yeah.
got 100, 200 points, or
Yeah.
it's -5.
Tier
Now,
5 is the
I'm just-
yeah.
It's a pure dark horse.
I'm
Nick.
just saying, my whole team was similar to all of yours points wise. It's my tier 4. I had Sicky as tier 4.
You're tier 4 with 97 points.
Yeah,
Your
that
tier
was the one
5?
that
Because
yeah.
he had K-Dop, Squishy, Garrett, Sicky, and Cammy. And if you look at it,
Yeah,
the weak point was Sicky on that
Yeah.
one for you.
Well, how much?
It's unfortunate.
Cammy gave you what,
Thank you,
-5?
Sicky.
Cammy had -5. I had -5 as well. You had -5. Did you have
Yeah,
Cammy?
-5.
Yeah,
We all
-5.
had
So tier 5 didn't matter. It was really tier 4 that made the difference.
Yeah, okay.
Tier
If I-
5 is just
yeah.
as important as tier 1. If you pick a good tier 5, it's just those little extra points that you get that make the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, now I guess it's the time, the moment of truth for the wings. So I'll grab them. I'll present them to the two. You might as well clear your spaces out. We're gonna try to do this on camera so that hopefully both of these guys don't go running off to the bathroom or to the thing. That's why we've got milk, ice cream, all of the necessities here. We also have donuts. Donuts seem to help with this.
Why
So.
don't we explain what hot sauces are on these?
So this is called the N from Pepper Palace. You can look this up.
ready for this.
While they get ready and they basically have to mentally prepare
You
here.
guys are going
Chug
down
all
DreamHack.
Maybe we should have
Relax.
buckets here, eh? Should we get buckets? Maybe I'll go. I have a garbage over there just in case you guys decide.
I'll run.
Okay.
I know. Maybe we should get a bucket.
So they have ice cream, they've got milk, and they've got donuts. Basically, all they're both required to do is take one bite and swallow that bite.
Oh
too
my
much.
god, this is gonna be 25. This is gonna be 25 minutes of pain. Hope you guys know that.
Just look this up. It's called the N, and you can get it online. Pepper Palace because we're in Canada. Just so you know exactly what we're doing. But anyways, I'm gonna grab the wings, and it's time for the event here.
Sicky, this is your fault. If you would just play a little bit better, I wouldn't be doing this right now.
And,
Think about it.
Spronger and R, if you're out there, go ahead and DM me on Instagram. We need to talk a little bit.
I'll be honest. I thought I was going to lose CSGO.
Do we gotta eat the whole thing?
No.
No,
Just one bite.
Please say
One
no.
bite. Should
Please say no.
I grab a garbage? Do you need one?
To
I'm
be honest,
scared.
I can't not even like Tabasco. Like if I do like
Well, he's going
like a hot
Tabasco
candy,
to
like a
one of the
hot
hottest
candy.
sauces in the world. Anyways, let's do it. Should we have a
he's gonna die.
should we have the moment of truth? You guys
we do
maybe
it together?
give it a cheers.
Oh, yeah.
Do it together.
Cheers, my 10
No,
Nick.
make sure it doesn't hit
Yeah,
your
I'm
lips.
touching my sauce.
Try to keep it away from your lips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see it. Wait, turn it around. You gotta
Yeah,
get the hot
get
side.
the hot side.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're gonna get that side.
This
Okay.
side right here.
Okay, let's go.
Holy fuck.
I want to say Justin's had a lot of sauce on it compared to Nick's.
Mine's lesser.
Oh yeah.
Just so everyone knows, Nick is doing the end. Justin is doing a ghost pepper, which is about 1 million Scoville units.
Still hot.
Still very high, yeah.
Oh my god.
I love how just for such a little speck, it's that bad.
It's bad, eh?
Oh my god.
Is it on the rise right now?
Can you talk and explain how you're feeling right now, Justin?
There's too much chicken.
Yeah.
I feel my entire body sweating. When you swallow it, it's the worst.
we have cookies too if needed.
You know what I think we should do? I think we should get a chart in the back that we just tally everyone.
All the losers or the winners?
winners.
Okay.
Holy
Beep.
This is gonna be a weekly thing. We're doing different challenges every time. I'm not.
No, we're
looking forward to
changing.
this.
We're changing it
Okay,
up.
good.
We talked about. We'll talk about Thursday on the next one. What we're gonna do, but it's basically every single event that we do. We'll do our own internal draft.
Oh my god.
We'll do our own internal draft, and on Thursday we'll announce basically.
Oh, let's do like a physical activity next time or something.
Basically, the losers are always gonna have to do it. The one loser this time there were two. Will always have to do something. So in this case, they both had to eat a very spicy hot sauce / chicken tender. I feel bad for laughing, but I don't care.
Hey, I'm laughing. I won.
It's scary. People actually eat that and enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
I do.
enjoy
The sauce that you ate, I put on my chicken.
No one enjoys the one I'm eating.
But the one that Nick's eating, I've had that before. I feel bad for him because that one hurts. That one's bad.
Like just for scale, what he's eating, this is 6-time Potter.
Yours is 9 or something, is it? Mine's
That's
million.
This is
Nick's
6
is
million.
6 million. Yours is 1
Yeah.
The
million.
lips is the worst.
What ideas are we having for the next one?
We'll announce it on next one. Actually, is there any closing remarks here for the guys? The guys who lost. Don't lose again.
Yeah.
Astralis, do better next time.
Nick.
Sicky, show up next time, please. Sicky,
Well-
just like better, just a little bit.
We'll end it like that while these guys try to cool off their mouths. Thank you for watching. Make sure you stay tuned for Thursday when we do our next Blast Pro series. We'll do our draft, and we'll also announce what the loser will have to do for that one. Again, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Make sure you go to EliteDuels.com, draft your team, and stay tuned. Make sure you hit the notification button so you get the notifications when the podcast comes out. And all of our podcasts do go on iTunes, so you can listen to them on there as well. But anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.
This is EliteDuels, the world's first skill-based daily fantasy esports contest. Pick your team, play daily, win cash. With multiple daily contest types across your favorite games, manage your team by selecting from the highest rated Tier 1 players to the Tier 5 dark horses. You'll earn 1 point for every kill, half a point for every assist, but lose half a point for every death. Cheer on your team and watch them earn points as they play. Win real cash you can withdraw in seconds. Being an esports champ has never been easier. EliteDuels, bringing fun and excitement from fantasy sports to professional esports.